Man, what a banger of a title. I'll have to explain that in a minute. I need to go fly this route again.
The ground things pound their feet. Down there on the street, things without feet. Right beneath me, and it's singing on what I see. Things that amaze me. It fills my dreams when I sleep.
Ooh, is that on my end? Okay. Is there lagging on the music?
Sky, there's been flying high, always loving life, wondering how the ground things out. Survive, never see life. Down below me, the ground things go.
My lord.
On the birds,
My lord. My. Everything is messed up. I might have to actually give me a second here. Shoot. Yeah, the stream's acting a little bit strange. I kind of have me over something in the distance. I hope it doesn't pitch over to here. I'm trying to where I think it will do that. Hold on. Anyway, we will try this stream out. Hello, I'm Zerzu Cyclin. Welcome to, I guess, my totally botched up stream. Hello, Roisin. Hello, Nightwolf. Hello, Penguin Control Tom. Oh man, I am not sure how this stream is going to go today. I hope it goes good. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a botched stream to begin with. I did not realize I was going to run into some technical issues there, which really sucks. So, about that title, anyone else find it refreshing that the left are finally being called out for their violence? Well, as you know, I've been talking to the Republicans quite a bit recently. I've been in several different chats and whatnot. I've joined a couple lives, and I've discussed, several subjects of my own on this Charlie Kirk incident. And when I saw that, I immediately thought, what grounds are we making this argument on? I mean, and it was on a debate channel. So, I started asking myself, how do I answer that question? And so the best way I thought I'd do it, instead of looking at, like, let's say, Democratic, I'm having a little bit of issues in the background here. Sorry, guys. And let's say instead of just looking at, like some sort of study that's, I'm Democrat that leans my direction. I figured the best way to answer this question if I'm speaking to a group of Republicans is to bring up the bring up like a Republican study. Now, I'm sure we all know of the Cato Institute, correct? It's a libertarian, very, 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 very right leaning study. So that's the study I decided to use when addressing this question. And I ask a simple question. Are the callouts factual, though? That is the question. I can say right wingers are the second most common motivating ideology, but does it make it fact? Only topped by terrorists inspired by inspired by Islamist ideologists who are responsible for 87% of the murder in the United States since 1975. Hello, Sumi. And the person answered back, yes, they are, which I immediately thought, well, oh, this is going to go great. This is really going to go great. Yes, they are is the strongest argument they have. And then they tagged to my statement about I can say the right wing are the second most common motivating ideology, but does that mean it's fact? And they answered, yes, it is a fact. Is why it's the second most prominent ideology and held as a popular opposite the left and makes the opposing end of the political spectrum. In fact, it could be said that it was the first ideology because everything else is a deviation or variation, thus over creating the political spectrum. I don't know if he realized it, but he did answer, yes, it's the right wing, apparently. So I said, oh, it is in fact the right wingers, or it is a fact that the right wingers, the second most common motivating ideology when speaking to political violence. Okay, I didn't expect that fast of a win. Or maybe you didn't read what I said when you responded. And he replied, depends on what you mean by speaking of political violence. Well, we're talking about the death of a young man. Anyway, and how the right wing ideology is being used, and those using it wouldn't jump for a win just yet, because you didn't make any claim to clarify what you were talking about other than order or political ideology. And I said, clearly, I mean the act of killing another because of a difference in political beliefs. And he says, what? Well, we can take 125 AD, or are we talking 2025? I believe I mentioned 1975 earlier if this guy was reading. But anyway, and I said, we could put a date on it. From 1975 till now, how many murders in politically motivated terrorism in the United States? And he says, We could, and here's why it's not going to matter nor be applicable 2020, 2025, different sets of people and mindsets, different situations and utilization of ideology. 1975 forward would be left-wing ideology. That was a fast win. Anyway, I said, do you know what how many means? And somebody jumped in and said, so you're inferring Islamic ideology is the fault of Kirk's case and the left aren't to be criticized? What's your position? Just state it. And I simply answered, no, dude. I don't even know what that guy was talking about. I was simply trying to find out their ideology. Now, of course, I have some statistics I'm going to be sharing after all of this. Every time it, and he then replied, every time it has been left wing that sparked the violence from 1975 forward. And I'm still not getting any type of statistics I'm looking for. So I answered, so you don't know how many, or you don't know what how many means? He says, you're approaching this at such a stupid angle, lol. And the other guy goes, to then articulate your position. Pretty vague thus far, which is why I am asking questions. Well, I was trying to get their position, of course, first. And, I go, hell, I haven't even got to my position. Or somebody in between there said, every single event the left has sparked the political violence from 1975 forward, and put spaces in between each word, like if they're talking to me like a retard, which was kind of funny. And I said, hell, I haven't even got to my position. This is all to figure out the position of the people interested. Nah, wait till his next broadcast. And he replied, yeah, I wouldn't want to commit to a losing position either. Of course, I had my entire position ready. It's an entire study by, the Cato Institute, which is as I said before, very, very right-leaning paper. So I replied, I just simply asked how many murders in politically violence, I said that wrong, but anyway, in political violence between 1975 and now. Is there a number you want to pick? The question is not asking sides, it's asking for a whole number. And the person replied, I don't need to pick a number. If it's every single time there was political violence, you dumb fuck. And I replied, so your stance is that every single event of murder due to political ideas is a left-leaning murder. And somebody replied, so you're unsure if you are right or left, or if you are right or left, or Islamist leaning, ? What prompted your question whether people should be calling out the left for violent rhetoric when one can see their violent rhetoric and violent actions on every protest, riot, stream you turn on? Intimidation is every move while simultaneously playing the victim. State your position, dude. These guys are nuts. I have no clue what the heck he's talking about. No, I wasn't trying to question anybody's position other than what the statement was earlier, that the left are finally being called out for their violence. And when we're talking about this subject being the death of a man, then we're not comparing it to protest or riots or getting punched in the face because somebody doesn't like you. We're comparing it specifically to deaths. Anyway, so I answered, yeah, or then he said, or he replied to me again, or somebody else replied to me, yes, now you're going to get your point or what? And that's when I finally answered, sure, I won't use any fee-fees, just stats. Between 1975 and 2025, there have been 3,599 deaths due to politically motivated violence. This number includes 9/11. Out of those Islamists, 3,122, 8%, right wing 391, 11%, left wing 65, 2%. Sounds to me like the left's the lowest number, Islamist extremist is the highest number, and right wing is the third. Now, I have a full study, of course, I'm going to go into. And he says Islamists would actually be ideologically be the left of right. The only way you could make Islamism become the ideology if you're going to attempt to call the right detractors and try again. And I said, actually, it's separated as to not muddy the waters. And he says, yeah, but if we're gonna talk strict ideological definition, then tenets is left leaning. I never mentioned that I wanted to mention ideological. I want some numbers, some statistics. That's what I've been saying all along. Anyway, so you're going to come up with stats or just fee-fees is what I ask. Not fee-fees. It's just hardcore definition, no fact. Whatever that is. That's why Islamism is the left to Christianity. And somebody came in with something totally off pace. I have no clue what they were saying. And I replied, I have not once asked for a definitional statement. I have in fact asked for some numbers. I'm not into ideological claims. And he says statistics don't really matter because the cause, so it does really support your position. All that would really show is the case that the right is willing to put their foot down and put a stop to something. This is stupid. This is stupid topic to pull statistics on. Statistics would be meaningless to this debate. Sounds like they're afraid of actually answering the question of more or less. Who is doing it more or less, the Republicans or the Democrats? I mean, I'd like to find out. Why not? Let's look up some numbers and find out more a value. Would you say more is a value in number? I said, if you would like smaller numbers, I could remove 9/11 from the factor and make the number a bit smaller. And he replied, 9/11 would be left-wing ideology starting shit and pulling the trigger on political violence, first as well as stoking the fire for it. Statistics are going to cost you your argument, dude. All leaning on statistics would do is, in this regard, is show that the right is willing to set up and put up to stop foolishness and redress the balance of society and restore sustainability and of its structure. Now that's a justification of all right killings. That's actually justifying all right-wing killings or attempt to. oh, they're only doing it because they're doing it in self-defense. They're not doing it because of ideologies. No, not at all. And somebody jumped in. First off, the majority of political violence rarely results in death. I didn't ask if it rarely resulted in death. So temper tantrum lefties who can keep their hands to themselves are already unrepresented in your framing. Hello, Cardi Blanche. Let me get a drink of coffee here. And I answered, statistics is the only logical way to determine if one thing happens more than another thing. More is a statistical requirement. More is a numerical mathematical comparison in how many deaths and how many how many in numerical value. And the guy answered, no, it's not, and actually a fallacy. The debaters of ancient days didn't have the statistics. Yeah, we also changed the way that we make logical arguments entirely. And I said, you're right. I'm not talking about slap fights. I'm talking about a man getting shot in the neck for nonsense reasons and deaths due to political violence. If the deaths are not what you were talking about, then see your way out. Oh, that was referring to something somebody else said earlier. And he said, which the left historically, the other guy that was still talking to me, the left historically, or which the left historically is more inclined to do. That's why their figures who have done the opposite are memorialized and can be counted as on a single hand, like MLK, for example. I mean, he doesn't understand that when he's talking about counted, when he's talking about counted, he's also talking about numbers. And I answered, we're in the current day. I don't care about how they did things thousands of years ago. If you cannot provide one statistic that supports a claim of not more, a numerical comparison, you're not in the argument. You're just circling your fifis. And he says, no, he would be, oh, he's replying to somebody else. And I said, last chance to give a more or less value. I'm not talking about your fifis. And somebody answered some garbage, and I answered not more or less value. And the other person said, can you bring all the statistics you want? And ultimately, you're going to be meaningless because, like I said, they will actually, or what they will actually do is showcase the right has willingness to step up and put out foolishness to redress the balance of society and restabilize its structure. Again, he's using this, oh, they're doing it for right reasons. They're killing for right reasons. That's why there's so many. Well, I mean, he's not saying that's why there's so many because I'm sure he thinks it's not a larger number. Or I'm pretty sure with the way that they're arguing that they do know it's a much larger number. Republicans have killed many more people than Democrats. Left-leaning have killed many less people than Republican or than right-leaning. And yes, I did say that backwards. I said that right, but in the opposite reverse order to make sure that I'm saying it both ways, which is the same damn thing. And I said, oh my God, I tell you what, if I give you more money in the bank, will you accept a bunch of words? And he says, I don't care for my study says I'm not really reliable. If you're biased, you have the data skewing, political meddling, free will decline participation surveys, you're not actually going to get accurate figures out of them. And I said, so there's no way to determine more or less in your assessment? Anyway, this continued on for a few more minutes before, I decided I'm just going to go ahead and we'll look at these statistics. What do you think? Pulling up my gibberish here. Now, this comes from, as I said, a Cato Institute study. I'll go ahead and pull up the study and pop it into the side chat right now. It's not exactly its wordings, but for the most part, it's its wordings. What this study is trying to show is that the politically motivated violent acts are rare. They don't really happen very much. But out of these numbers, I can extrapolate something entirely different. I can extrapolate the number of Republicans versus the number of Democrat versus Islamic extremists versus separatism, and we'll go all into that. Politically motivated murder is unacceptable and inherently wrong, like all murder, but especially corrosive because it attacks both individual and social fabric. The harm is personal, a life lost, a family shattered, and a community grieving. The harm is also very public, and the act itself undermines the democratic discourse. Charlie Kirk is an example of this. Politicians and commenters across the ideological spectrum have condemned the killings through reactions in various tones. A small contingent of social media accounts praise the crime. Thankfully, politically motivated murder still remains rare in the United States. Let's look into the study to see, what I was trying to get at before I learned the murders scare people. As you see, the study says from January 1975 through September 10th, 2025, a total number of 3,599 people have been murdered in politically motivated terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. The number accounts for roughly 0.35% of all homicides during that period. Since 2020, only 81 such murders have occurred, which just 0.07% of all murders in the time frame, or 7 out of every 10,000 terrorists in the broadest responsible category for politically motivated murder, defined as the threat or actual use of illegal force and violence by non-state actors to achieve political, economic, religious, or social goals through coercion, fear, or intimidation. This definition excludes most hate crimes, which are often more personal or implosive. But this figure 1 here, like I said, I don't know about their exact wording in their study, but we're going to look at figure 1 because it's quite important. Let's see. Now, figure 1 shows that there is a definite spike in 2000. Now, this also shows that it's not necessarily good to look at such a long timeline. I was starting with a long timeline to work my way up to a smaller timeline. And the reason why it's not good to look at such a long timeline, we'll go ahead with figure 2. So you get these inflated numbers mostly by 3,122, 87% of the politically motivated terrorism, including 9/11. Well, that was 9/11. But if you notice, it says right wing 391, left wing 65. That's 11% and 2%, with the right wing having the highest percent. So that clearly shows between 1975, even with the 9/11 numbers included, that clearly shows that between 1975 and now, more 11% deaths have happened in the hands of a right-wing ideology than deaths that have happened in the hands of left-wing ideology. But if we go further to look at, without the 9/11 numbers, but before we do that, let me pull up this real quick. I got to share screen. I'm going to go ahead and share the one with the entire screen with the duck. That works. Share the duck. Oh, I got to remove that last screen first. There we go. So I have some numbers that I pulled up. Let's go to my downloads that I found kind of interesting. Oh boy, I gotta actually find my downloads at the moment. Downloads. This thing might take a second to pull up. There we go. Come on, full screen. Oh, God. Okay. So as I was saying, if you look at these statistics, I wonder if I can be larger this way. Yes. If you look at these statistics, you'll find an interesting pattern. 1975, 5, 16, 5, 4, 1, 8, 2, 1, 14, 0, 0. I'm not sure what happened in 1995 that caused 170 political deaths, but that's interesting. Now, of course, 2021, that was the World Trade Center. And 2009 must have had something very interesting, because if you'll notice, most of the years there's two of me. Which one do I boot? I guess I boot the silent one. There we go.
Hey, look at your tablet. You just went in this.
Yeah, I know. I've got. No, it's not buffering. The entire StreamYard just fell flat on its face. Oh, man. That ruined the whole presentation I had set up. So we'll go share screen. Share the entire screen. I don't need audio. Okay, so yeah, it's not buffering. I don't know what exactly is happening. I actually had a complete collapse here on my side. I mean, I'm watching my bandwidth. My bandwidth seems to be fine, so I'm really not sure what the heck's happening here. But I'll try to continue from where I was. So as I was saying, 2001. Oh, no, what was I saying? Oh, if you notice, it's mostly single digit, except for like 77 had 16. 1986 had 14. 1995 had 170, but for the most part, they're single digits. Now, if we look right around 2014, look at what starts happening. Look, 21, 33, 59, 20, 16, 37, 13, 19, 18, 25. Wow, something. There's a very clear sign that something around 2014, a political event, sparked some sort of violence in our country. And by these statistics, primarily on the right. And I'm going to point out the only thing that I can possibly think happened in 2014 that would spark a large number of right-leaning violent actors. Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States of America. Yes, I did mean to pause for quite some time after that. That's what I think might have sparked off all of these violent, politically leaning deaths in the United States of America. I'm not talking about getting your face slapped at some sort of freaking protest or some sort of riot or something like that. I'm talking about people who have been killed due to political ideology has giantly spiked in 1 year from 2013 to 2014 and hasn't slowed down since. That's what we need to look into. That's what we need to look into. Now let's try to get these numbers down a little bit more sensible. If it doesn't crash again. Image file. So let's move forward, just as this study does, we'll remove the 9/11. And even with the 9/11 removed, it won't open the file. Holy jeez. Well, I can share screen. Here, we'll share screen. And we'll share this entire screen. Hello, Vestige of Peace. So going forward, what were we doing without 9/11? Now this is still from 1975 to current. Oh, I got this on the wrong screen. That works. We'll just drop this over here. We still see that even without 9/11, now once we make these numbers a little bit more sensible, it starts to really make a lot more sense. Once we remove most of the big numbers from 9/11 and turn it into individuals, we get 143 from Islamic terrorism, and we get the left 65, 10%, and the right 391, 63%. Now this is from 1975, or well, no, this was 2025 to 2017. No, this was oh, that's right. This is still the same numbers, I believe. So we'll pull up the tables on this here. Oh, there is a link that breaks all of this down. I could scroll up and repost it if you want. Or I could just repost it. Just in case I start getting some people a little lost. But what that shows is 391 right-leaning political deaths versus 65 left-leaning political deaths. Now, let's look at one thing that's... Oh, I wanted to look at the data on that real quick. If it will give me the data again. Yes, it does. Good. Okay, so that's how that data is broke down. I don't like that data chart anyway. I really didn't like it when I looked at it to begin with. But this data chart here is probably the good one that needs to be looked at. Let's see. This one is from only 2000. Or no, this one's still showing 1975. I might have saved the wrong stuff here. Okay, yeah, this one's from only 2020. So we're like right in the heart of that, you know, big numbers that we're getting, but we're really close to narrow to right in today's atmosphere, today's world. Do you see what I'm saying? We have 18 deaths since 2020 that were caused by left-leaning political violence. And we have 44 deaths caused by right-leaning violence. That's 54%. So there's an average of, if you take 54 and the 60 whatever from the last one, there's an average of about 58, 56% in general. But we'll just go with 54% from this one study from 2020 with a total of 81 deaths. Now, let's look at the numbers on that, because that's where it probably gets pretty good. No, this one's wrong. Why am I downloading the wrong bits? There we go. Oh yeah, we already looked at that stat. But yeah, I think I've pretty much, from what I've shown in the study that I have so far, made it very clear that it's not left-leaning political ideas at all that are killing people. And this stupid argument that the guy was trying to make that oh well, it just shows, any stats you show will just show that Republicans, the right-leaning, will stand up and set things right by what? Kill people? I think that was the argument. Anyway, as always, you guys are awesome. I am so sorry this stream glitched halfway through. Remember, you don't have to be wise. Fuck me something else, huh?